I ate a potato last week and I could not stop thinking about it. Not because it was extraordinary, because it was completely ordinary. Pale, watery, barely any flavor, gone from my body within an hour. I was hungry again before the plate was cold. Then I went down a research rabbit hole that genuinely unsettled me. I found a study published in the American Journal of Botany in July 2024 by a team at the University of Utah. They had been testing a wild potato species called Solanum jamesi, also known as the Four Corners potato, that indigenous peoples in the American Southwest have been eating for at least 11,000 years. Stone tools recovered from an ancient site in Escalante, Utah, had potato starch residue pressed into the rock from nearly 9,000 years ago. That potato, the one they were eating for 11 millennia, contains twice the protein, twice the calcium, twice the magnesium, and twice the iron of the potato sitting in your supermarket right now. The same fruit. 10,000 years of human relationship with it. Half the nutrition. I needed to understand what happened between then and now. I want to take you somewhere most people have never thought about when they think about a potato. The Andes Mountains of present-day Peru and Bolivia. Altitude of 3,800 meters, nearly 12,500 feet above sea level. Nighttime temperatures dropping to minus 20 degrees Celsius. Days of intense equatorial sun. An environment so extreme it sounds uninhabitable. This is where the potato was born. Genetic studies confirm that potato domestication began from a single origin roughly 7,000 to 10,000 years ago, in the borderlands of what is now southern Peru and northwestern Bolivia, around Lake Titicaca. The indigenous farmers there, the Quechua and Aymara peoples, did not just grow potatoes. They built an entire civilization around them. And I mean that literally. The Inca Empire, at its height, the largest empire in the pre-Columbian Americas, stretching over 4,000 kilometers from Colombia to Chile, was fed by the potato. The Inca army marched on it. The Inca cities were sustained by it. Historian Carl Troll argued that the specific climate of the southern Peruvian highlands, those brutal, freezing nights, that intense daytime sun, was not just where the potato happened to grow. It was the reason the Inca Empire was possible at all. And what those ancient farmers did with the potato is where I found the most remarkable detail in all of this research. They invented freeze-drying. The Incas had a process called chuño.
Mes de mayo, junio, temporadas más fuertes, cuando hay más fuerte heladita colocamos. Para hacer tunta del mismo también hacemos tunta y chuño también. Lo que está pisado es chuño ya. Y los que no pisamos, los metemos en la mañanita, se mete para tunta, sí, sin pisar.
After harvest, they spread potatoes on the ground at high altitude, let them freeze solid in the overnight cold, then walked over them in the morning to press out the moisture. Freeze, trample, sun dry. Repeat for 5 days. What emerged was a potato stripped of almost all water, lightweight, dense, shelf-stable, indestructible by bacteria and mold. Chuño could be stored and eaten for up to 10 years. Some records suggest decades. I read that and was startled. A civilization without refrigeration, without electricity, without a single piece of modern food technology, had developed, through patient observation, a preservation method that modern science only formally described in 1906. The same physics NASA uses to feed astronauts today. And the varieties they worked with across those thousands of years were extraordinary. The Lake Titicaca region still contains over 4,000 traditional potato varieties, each adapted to different microclimates different altitudes, different soil compositions. The Food and Agriculture Organization recognizes the Andean region as a globally important agricultural heritage system. For exactly this reason, then Europe arrived, and eventually industry arrived after that. I kept pulling on this thread because I wanted to know where the nutrition went. The research I found was specific enough to be uncomfortable. Between 1963 and 1992, the mineral content of 13 common fruits and vegetables in the United States was measured and compared across that span. The results, drawn from USDA food composition data, showed that potatoes, alongside apples, oranges, and other staples, had seen a 25 to 50% decline in nutrient density over that 30-year window. Losses were not distributed evenly. Iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, vitamin C, all measurably lower in the modern commercial potato than in potatoes grown and measured in the mid-20th century. To match the vitamin and mineral intake of previous generations, today's consumer would need to eat 2 to 3 times the amount of food. That finding appeared in a 2024 peer-reviewed paper published in Food's Journal, authored by researchers documenting what they called, in their own title, an alarming decline. I wanted to know why. So I kept digging. Two things happened in parallel that explain almost everything. The first is soil. A 1936 U.S. Senate report, that is not a typo, 1936, and warned that crops grown on depleted soils were starving us, no matter how much of them we eat. Decades before the problem became visible in nutrition tables, someone in government already knew. The shift from traditional farming practices to chemical-dependent industrial agriculture stripped soil of the biological complexity that made mineral-dense crops possible. Mycorrhizal fungi, the underground networks that help plant roots absorb minerals, are largely absent from chemically farmed soil. The potato grows, it fills out, it looks normal. But the minerals it was supposed to draw from the earth are no longer there. The second is the plant itself. Modern commercial potato breeding accelerated through the 20th century, selected for the traits that mattered to industry: high yield, uniform appearance, disease resistance, and the ability to survive long-distance shipping without bruising. The Russet Burbank, the variety behind the majority of American French fries and potato chips, was specifically bred to have high starch content and a shape that cuts efficiently into uniform strips. Nobody selected for nutritional density. The researchers at the University of Utah, who published that 2024 study in the American Journal of Botany, made a point I found devastating. The Four Corners potato, the one indigenous peoples had cultivated for 11,000 years to some, was pushed out of the market in the 19th century, not because it failed nutritionally, but because it was small, the size of a walnut. It could not compete with the large uniform commercial varieties flooding the market. Supermarkets did not want it. Industry could not process it efficiently. So it disappeared from the food supply, and with it went twice the iron, twice the calcium, twice the protein, documented, published, verified by the University of Utah's own measurements in 2024. I then looked at what replaced it in the modern diet. The average American now consumes 55 pounds of frozen potatoes per year, primarily French fries and hash browns, another 17 pounds of potato chips, versus 42 pounds of fresh potatoes. The potato that sustained the Inca army, that fed civilizations for 10,000 years, that an 11,000-year-old stone tool still carries the starch evidence of, is now primarily consumed deep-fried in industrial seed oil, coated in salt, and served in a paper bag through a car window. The potato did not fail us. We failed the potato. Here's what I have been doing differently since I went through this research, and it is not complicated. The single most important change I made was going back to the skin. Peeling a potato removes a significant portion of its minerals, fiber, and vitamin C, concentrated in the outer layers and just beneath the surface. I stopped peeling. I scrub the skin and cook it whole. That single habit recovers a measurable proportion of what industrial processing and peeling strips away. The second change was cooking method. Boiling potatoes leaches water-soluble nutrients, vitamin C and potassium, directly into the water. I switched to baking and steaming skin on. The same potato, prepared differently, retains significantly more of what it should contain. The third, and the one I am most interested in pursuing, is variety. Heritage and traditional potato varieties, purple potatoes, fingerlings, Andean imports, have been shown in multiple studies to contain higher levels of antioxidants and minerals than commercial russet and white varieties. They are available. Farmers markets, specialty grocers, and online suppliers carry them. They are more expensive. They are also measurably more food. The Incas grew over 4,000 varieties across their territory. We narrowed that down to essentially a handful. The diversity was not decorative. It was nutritional insurance, ecological resilience, and medicinal depth accumulated over thousands of years of careful observation. That knowledge did not disappear. It is still in the ground, in Peru and Bolivia. It is still in the plants. It is still in the research. What is missing is the commercial incentive to bring it back. I keep thinking about those stone tools in Escalante, Utah. 9,000 years ago, someone pressed a potato against a grinding stone. The starch soaked into the rock. It sat there, undisturbed, through every empire and every famine and every technological revolution that followed. And in 2010, an archaeologist named Lisbeth Louderback found it. That potato, the wild one, the ancient one, the one the Inca traded across 4,000 kilometers of mountains, had 3 times the iron and twice the protein of what I bought at the supermarket last Tuesday. We did not make the potato better. We made it bigger and more uniform and easier to ship. We selected for what industry needed and called the result an improvement. Your body knows the difference. It just was not given the language to say so. So I need to know, what do you think happens to your energy and appetite when you give up processed potato products? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Your responses shape everything we cover next. If you believe real food has been quietly replaced by something designed for profit rather than health, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe. Because on the next video, I am going to show you what happened to the fat your grandmother cooked in. In 1911, a company called Procter & Gamble invented the first fully synthetic cooking fat in a laboratory and put it in every American kitchen within a generation. I found the original documents